I'm so excited because today is my last day at my mental health clinical. I'm so excited for at least something to be over this semester because this semester is kicking my ass. Hi everyone, I'm Danielle Denise and welcome to my channel. Here I make videos about my nursing journey on becoming a psychiatric and mental health nurse practitioner, as well as some other lifestyle content. But for today's video, I'm here to share with you my mental health clinical rotation experience. This video is for any future nurses, current nursing students, and anybody interested in hearing about a mental health rotation. I hope to make this a continued series on my channel, just recapping any of my clinical rotations, so be sure to check out my first Med-Surg clinical rotation, which I will leave linked up above, and be sure to subscribe down below to catch any future clinical rotation recaps, such as my second semester Med-Surg rotation, which will be coming up in just a few weeks, but I finished my mental health rotation a little bit early, so that's what today's video is all about. So let's get started. So of course you would think, oh, Danielle wants to be a mental health nurse practitioner. This mental health rotation was probably like her favorite clinical rotation thus far. And you'd be right. However, it did end early due to some agreements made with the clinical site in my school, but it is what it is. It has been filled with some mental health court hearings and support group visits such as Al-Anon and AA. They are different, but it's been good. And a few other people in my cohort, they're at a different rotation, so they're still going the whole semester with theirs. And theirs is more of a geriatric or older adults psychiatric rotation. So let's get into my particular rotation. I just want to start by saying, yes, I was nervous. Coming from a mental health job before starting school, I was expecting everybody in the mental health hospital to be at the peak of their illness, but like times 10, which was partially true because there was literally 10 or more patients to one charge nurse. And this might be specific just to this hospital, but I'm just sharing my experience and what you might expect. I don't know where you'll end up or where other people might be, like my other classmates that had different rotation, but for me, this is how it was set up. 10 or more patients to one charge nurse. Now there was like a med nurse, another LVN, and 2 behavioral specialists who kept things in order and interacted with the patients the most and were responsible for more of the discipline aspect, I guess you could say. Kind of what I was expecting, but not as bad as I thought it would be. So again, specific to my hospital that I was at, it was separated by units. We had intake, outpatient, acute, chemical dependency, adult, like regular adult, and adolescent units. So I did not experience outpatient or acute because the acuity was too high in acute, and outpatient wasn't a part of our experience. But as for the other units, I'll give you a little bit of insight and some tips as to what you might expect. Just to break it down really quick, intake was my favorite unit, but I'll get into that later. It's just, the processing coming in and getting placed on a unit. Outpatient is for people who are maintaining their mental health and what they need to do as far as services and support groups. That's what that was about. Chemical dependency is for those struggling with substance abuse. The adolescent unit, of course, were the kids. And regular adult, just anybody above 18 maybe, or was it 21? The ages that they had for like adult chemical dependency and adolescents, some of them kind of overlapped a bit. So I don't want to be entirely wrong. I won't give specific ages, but adult, just expect like you no longer see a pediatrician. We'll go with that. So getting on to the units, what you could expect to bring with you to your rotation, all of that. We had a lot of rules, so the most I was able to bring was a small notebook and a small pen that was able to fit into my pocket so that I could take any notes on things that I might have seen or heard from my patients. So as far as prep, that was it. Just a small notebook and a small pen. This isn't one of those rotations where you need to bring like your stethoscope and stuff like that. We didn't. No, that was out. So let's talk about some patient interactions, some things that you can expect and some tips that you can use to have some conversations with your patients. I want to start off by saying that most importantly, you want to be familiar with your therapeutic communication techniques. Now, you're not there to provide therapy. Therapeutic communication techniques just give you things that you can say, what you're able to say, what you shouldn't say, and help you figure out when you just shouldn't say anything at all. Now, when approaching patients or being around them, try not to be afraid of them at any point. Like, that could be you or I, and the tables could be turned. You could be in their position. Just think about how you would feel if someone approached you and they were feeling really anxious and they're trying to ask you about your disorder or what's going on, and they're super anxious, and that makes you even more anxious, and you probably wouldn't want to share anything with them. So just try to be a very calm, approachable person and just understanding, be a little empathetic. That's what most nurses are until they lose it. I don't know what happens to some people, but yeah, just try to keep that in mind. Something that I left out was that the overall energy of the patients I experienced was calm. However, you never know what to expect, so be sure to position yourself accordingly and try to ask ahead of time who would be a good patient to talk to and who wouldn't. Some ways that you can initiate these conversations. What I would do, I would just make small talk. Sometimes patients would just come up to me instead. Be careful with that too, though, because some of them like to play with students and provide false information and things like that. But I think I got some pretty genuine people, like in comparison. Like the closest I got to that was who came to talk to me, and like some things didn't line up with her chart, but then most of the things did because of her positive symptoms, as in like hallucinations and delusions. Those were what they were, and I doubt that she would have time to make those up, which were congruent with what was in her chart. Just be careful with that. Patients can approach you, you can approach them, or what you can do, like what my classmate did, she too kept it casual. She would listen in to what they would say in groups, and after groups, when we had time to speak with the patients, she would approach a patient saying like, "Oh, I heard you mention this in group. Would you be willing to speak more about that?" Something along those lines. And I think that was such a sweet thing, because a lot of these patients really just want to be heard and listened to and just have a listening ear. So we were able to provide that for them, and that was something that I truly appreciated, because like unlike other rotations, we didn't have to worry about doing like a head-to-toe assessment. We maybe did like a mini mental for some assignments, but this was both a return investment for both them and us, because they had someone that was willing to talk to them and listen, and we were able to get information for some analysis assignments, and as well as tap into our empathetic roles as nurses and get to listen to patients and talk to patients. So I really appreciated that about this rotation as well. But other than that, I mean, as far as working with mental health staff, you will run into some power dynamic, power hungry kind of people. I mean, I guess it's expected in this field at this point. It shouldn't be, but a big topic is nurse bullying between behavioral health specialists and nurses. But as a whole, there were so many more helpful people than like bad seeds. So most of the people, I almost said all, but like most of them were super helpful, gave so much insight as to what was going on, what it's like for them, stories. They share so many stories. It was really a great experience. My fave unit was intake, and although they didn't really let us talk to patients there, they were super insightful about what the process is like, the different types of holds, who gets to write these holds. Yes, you'll learn that in class, but you get to see it there. You get to see who brings the patients in, like cops, ambulance, families, patients walk in voluntarily, people getting transferred from facility to facility. There's just so many different things, and it's just a very exciting process. Sometimes it's slow or just like calm, but other times it's like super busy. And sometimes patients are just way too acute that they skip the intake process in the intake like unit, and they have to go straight to their unit, and they do the intake process there. So it's just very different for certain people, and it's just a really exciting experience. And I really did value this, since this is the field that I do want to get into. And even if you're not particularly interested in mental health, I think as other nurses, it's really important to get to see some of these people with these disorders firsthand so that you can see when you might need a psych eval or consult in whatever field that you end up in nursing, or if you're in PA school or whatever else it might be. So I want to try to keep this video short, so I'll try to end it out there. But feel free if you have any questions or want to know more about things that I might have left out. Any questions that you might have, just feel free to leave them down below and I will get back to them. But for now, I will catch you in my next upload, okay? I'll see you there. Bye.